Bueno, muchas gracias. Realmente agradecido por tener esta concurrencia en
I'd like to
esta
thank
plenaria.
you for having invited me to lead this plenary meeting. I'd like to thank Jagdish for being here with us. Jagdish is a well-known researcher, and he's here to talk about those practices and methodologies we can implement in our production system to reduce nitrogen losses and consequently to increase nitrogen use efficiency. This will be a brief introduction. I'd just like to remind you that this will be a 40 minutes long presentation. Afterwards, there will be 10 minutes for questions. You can send your questions in writing and text messages, and that's it. Okay, so let's introduce Jagdish before getting on the stage. He is part of Columbia University. He's devoted over 30 years to sustainable agriculture management issues to increase food security and environmental quality. Dr. Jagdish Ladha, the floor is yours to talk about nitrogen and cereal production opportunities to increase nitrogen use efficiency and reduce losses.
So, still good morning. Thank you very much for this invitation, and it's a pleasure to talk to such a large gathering in a beautiful city of Rosario. We have been enjoying it, especially yesterday, full sunshine, so it was fantastic. So what I like to do is to share some of the work which I have been doing with my colleagues and many collaborators around the world for the last couple of decades. It takes a bit while. Okay, I don't see it there.
No lo veo aquí en mi pantalla.
I don't see it there. Yeah. That's okay?
Ya está.
Sorry about it.
Les pido disculpas.
It's not coming.
Yes. It is coming in a few minutes. Maybe.
Okay, there you are. So that's the outline of my presentation. I'll talk about the synthetic nitrogen. When I say synthetic nitrogen, it's fertilizer nitrogen. And not only we should be talking about synthetic nitrogen, but also other sources of nitrogen. And then I go in a bit of detail of nitrogen use efficiency. What is it really? And it's a ratio. And then go in my main topic of today's presentation is how do we improve nitrogen use efficiency? What are the strategies, different strategies, agronomic and as well as genetic? And then give you my sense of this whole area where it should be doing and what we should be doing in future. So we have been very, very successful in producing enough food in the last 50 years globally. And I'm talking about the cereals, rice, wheat, and maize. And that has definitely helped in reducing hunger and, if not eliminating, improving nutrition and also in sparing natural ecosystem from conversion to agriculture. So that has been quite remarkable. Of course, it has not come free, and there has been cost associated to it. And there was about 10 times increase in the nitrogen fertilizer or synthetic nitrogen to produce that amount of food. As I said, we often talk about synthetic nitrogen, but we forget there are other sources of nitrogen. And here we have done total nitrogen budgeting, global nitrogen budget in rice, wheat, and maize. And what you see here, in 50 years, total of 746 teragram of nitrogen, million metric tons, were used for crops. And on global average, it's about 30 kilogram per hectare. The soil provided about 3 kilogram nitrogen per hectare over that period, because most of the soils have reached to a steady state, and so they don't have much more to provide additional. Now, in addition to these two, 48% of synthetic nitrogen and 4% of soil nitrogen, the equivalent amount is about 48% coming from other sources. And these other sources amount to be 737 teragrams, and that's also 30 kilogram per hectare. And it's coming, largest is coming from non-symbiotic biological nitrogen fixation, which is about 383 teragram or 15.5 kilogram per hectare. Manure provided, some parts of the world, 217 teragram. Deposition, large amount is coming in more recently, 970 teragram, 97 teragram. And then other sources like crop residue is very small amount. The nitrogen content in crop residue is very small. So we have got environmental challenges in front of us. There are nitrogen leakages. You apply 100 kilo nitrogen, a lot of it gets lost, and it goes to atmosphere. And so losses in last 50 years has been 847 teragram of nitrogen lost from synthetic nitrogen, but then equivalent about same amount or similar amount from other sources of nitrogen, which we often don't consider and we forget about it. So how do we define nitrogen use efficiency? And what are the causes of poor nitrogen use efficiency? And what are the strategies to improve it? Nitrogen use efficiency is a ratio, unfortunately, and that's the part of the problem. It's a ratio of output and input. Now, depending on who is, it's agronomist or physiologist or a soil scientist, the ratio could be biological yield or economic yield. Biological is above ground biomass, or it could be also nitrogen in above ground biomass. And the economic yield, the grain biomass or nitrogen in the grain biomass. All right. And the input is nitrogen supply, and or it could be nitrogen uptake. And that could be again from synthetic nitrogen or from other sources of nitrogen or together synthetic and other sources. So all these ratios have been conceptualized in 3 nitrogen use efficiency parameters: agronomic efficiency, physiological efficiency, and recovery efficiency. Agronomists use agronomy efficiency, physiologists use physiological efficiency, and soil scientists recovery efficiency. So you see here, you have 2 times 3 times 3, about 18 definitions. And you can see in the literature, people have used one of these or 2 of these or 3 of these or multiple of these 18 definitions. And that's why there has been quite a bit of confusion in literature. Of course, most of the people, they use recovery efficiency if they are interested in looking at how much losses are happening. Now, recently, there is a major paper in journal Nature, and also European Union expert panel simultaneously came out with these 3, what they call it, indices or targets. One is nitrogen use efficiency, which is ratio of total nitrogen output to that of total nitrogen input. So here has to be total nitrogen, synthetic as well as other sources. The second index they use it, and which reflects actually environmental pollution, is nitrogen input minus nitrogen output. Okay, so whatever is surplus assumed to be lost. And the third one is total yield or total nitrogen yield, which indicates food security. So you have these 3 indicators: agronomic, agricultural efficiency, environmental pollution indicator, and food security indicator. And European Union went further down, and they have this relationship between output and input, and they define the limits of nitrogen use efficiency. So 50% nitrogen use efficiency, if anything below 50%, then you have, it's very low efficiency and you have large losses. Anything above 90%, actually you are mining soil nitrogen. Okay, that's what they assume. Now they also set some desired minimum output. If you are in an agro-ecosystem, they say that at least you should have this much of minimum output targeted. And then you should also have minimum surplus targeted. And surplus is, remember, it's loss. Okay? So what we did, we used our 50 years of global nitrogen budget data and tried to put in this framework. And here is relationship between nitrogen output and nitrogen input, and here only synthetic nitrogen. So this is what I want to highlight. If you use only synthetic nitrogen, then your efficiency is coming close to 90%, which is never the case. And as soon as you put in all sources of nitrogen, then your efficiency is about 50%. And the lowest efficiency is the rice, and then wheat is very similar, about 50%, and maize is slightly higher because of C4 nature. So it's very important how you define nitrogen use efficiency and what ratio you use. And that will give you different answers. So let's go in the detail of what are the reasons of poor nitrogen use efficiency. Nitrogen is very dynamic. There will always be losses. You can't get 100% efficiency unless you are working in legume system where demand and supply is tightly linked. Above ground plant is saying I need nitrogen, and below ground is fixing nitrogen. That's 100% efficiency almost. But that you will not find it in cereals or in other non-leguminous crops. The other one is deteriorating soil quality, because soil is the one which regulates the nitrogen supply. You apply fertilizer nitrogen or organic nitrogen, whatever you apply to soil. It becomes part of soil. And soil, mainly because of soil organic matter, then it regulates the supply. And we have lost soil organic matter over the years. So soil quality has deteriorated. So that's another reason of poor nitrogen use efficiency. Poor agronomy. If you don't do agronomy right, then your efficiency is low. But this is another very important reason in many parts of the world. The part of the world I come from, and also China, for example, and India, there is a misuse of nitrogen because it's subsidized. And also there is a lack of awareness. Farmers don't know what are they know that they get good effects. If they apply nitrogen, there is green color of the plant, and so they like it. But they don't know that what is getting lost is causing environmental hazard that they don't know. And the subsidy is another culprit. So how do we improve nitrogen use efficiency? It's all about supply and demand. How tightly we can close supply and demand. So demand is cropped because of crop, and that depends on climatic conditions like irradiance, water, pests, diseases, and also variety, the kind of variety you have. If you have hybrids, for example, you probably have high demand. And the supply side is all the sources of nitrogen, synthetic nitrogen fixation, manure deposition. And so you have these two parameters which one should look at it. Nitrogen conversion efficiency. I like to call it nitrogen conversion efficiency. Nitrogen which is converted to produce either biomass or grain. So you have nitrogen conversion efficiency for grain or biomass. So that's one. That's a efficiency within the plant. The other one is uptake efficiency, nitrogen acquisition. So once you have tightened this supply and demand, then you can reduce the losses of volatilization and emission of nitrogen gases, and you can also reduce losses of nitrogen leaching runoff. There are two different agroecologies. In flooded rice system, you have more volatilization losses, but in upland system, you have more denitrification losses or runoff losses. So there are two ways you can handle it. One is managing the resources which you have in your hand, and another one is genetic manipulation. Let's go in a little bit of detail this. So you heard about this 4R, which IPNI has advocated. Very useful. Right time, right rate, right place, and right source. Once you do this for synthetic nitrogen, I think you will have good synchrony. And then, of course, you have to consider soil or other sources of nitrogen, right? and the best management, which I call agronomy, good agronomy. Once you have good agronomy, everything will fall in place. You can also improve nitrogen use efficiency through improving the breeding, through crop breeding, and crop breeding high yield potential, harvest index and nitrogen harvest index, and I'll go in a little bit of detail. Genetic engineering also, there are many efforts recently to improve acquisition as well as remobilization efficiency. And then a whole area of nitrogen fixation. Can we put nitrogen fixation similar to legumes in rice, wheat, or maize? But very important thing is to target high yield, potential yield. And that you can do with good agronomy. Once you do that, you will see that your efficiency will be high. And consider soil nitrogen supply, very important. So you have target of potential yield, and then find out how much crop can produce without nitrogen from a soil. And this could be different amounts of grain yield you can get, right? Like you can get 1 ton or 2 ton or 3 ton, depending on soil fertility, how much soil is fertile. And then you have this, you estimate requirement of additional synthetic nitrogen to get that potential yield. And make sure you have this target agronomic efficiency which you have in place. How do we do that? And I'm talking about now here rice, for example. So you have rice, when it grows in the initial stage, there is not much demand. So apply early nitrogen, not too much. Many farmers in Asia, they apply heavy doses of early on when crop has no demand. And of course, it will get lost. When crop requires nitrogen, more nitrogen, active tillering or panicle initiation stage. And that's the time apply more nitrogen. Adjust nitrogen rates based on crop response and based on leaf nitrogen status, or you can achieve optimal leaf area index and crop canopy. This has been a single biggest challenge in agronomy and soil science. How do we know how much response is there and how much supply from soil, native soil nitrogen? And yesterday we had very good discussion with Fernando, who is sitting in front, and we thought of one should look at intercept and the slope of response function. There are other ways also, and that I like to show. The key is to establish method for rapid diagnosis of leaf nitrogen status. Okay? How can you do that? And there are simple gadgets which researchers have been working on for the last many years. It started with a spot meter. It's a chlorophyll meter which measures chlorophyll. And chlorophyll is directly related to nitrogen concentration in leaf. So that can tell you how much nitrogen already plant has. And from this spot meter, there is a simpler version was developed, a farmer-friendly tool, leaf color chart. And then you have this more newer advanced green seeker. Green seeker is absolutely very useful in the sense that it also can estimate the crop growing demand, how much, depending on climatic condition, how much crop will produce, and that can, green seeker can sense it. The important thing is, and this is again for rice, you should be able to maintain 1.4 gram per meter square of nitrogen in the leaf. And that is equivalent to leaf color chart reading of 35, spot reading of 35 or LCC reading of 3. So throughout growth duration, you should have that much nitrogen concentration. And once you have, you can ensure high yield. We have been working on it all over Asia. And farmers love this simple tool. And they say LCC is like a nitrogen thermometer, which tells me when plant needs nitrogen. It is simple and has increased my knowledge of nitrogen. Because whenever you go and tell them, oh, use this leaf color chart to find out how much nitrogen the crop requires, then you also tell, if you apply excess, then you are losing it. So that knowledge goes with it. And this allows me to control excess or misuse of nitrogen. In Asia, South Asia, we have been moving in conservation agriculture, as you have also here. And the very good machines have been developed with good amount of residue. You can not only drop the seeds at right depth, but you can also drop the fertilizer at subsurface layer or deeper layer, and that increases efficiency as well. I think the new frontier is going to be fertigation through drip. And more research is showing that even cereals, we can grow with fertigation and with drip irrigation. I think in case of rice, there are some logistic issues, but I think eventually it will happen. And that's the new frontier, I call it. So system optimization for high yield potential. And there are many excellent journal articles in recent years, maize, rice, wheat, and even including in this part of the world, Uruguay. And let me show you some Chinese work. And they developed this system, or they call it synchronizing nitrogen supply demand through targeting high yield. And they call it, ISSM. I think it's Integrated Soil System Management. So they make sure that demand is high by using right variety, right planting time, and then you apply nitrogen. And here they showed very good data, and these were from large number of farmer fields. The current practice was giving, let's say for example, in case of rice, 7.2 tons, the ISSM, Integrated Soil Crop System Management, 8.5 ton. And that increased your nitrogen efficiency, which is partial factor productivity of nitrogen on the third column, and also it reduced the nitrogen surplus, which is nitrogen loss. And the similar results were in wheat and maize. Now, let's move to genetic manipulation. I think agronomy is definitely very, very important, but I think variety also plays a very important role. So, in variety, there are two components. One is nitrogen conversion for biomass, and other one is nitrogen conversion for grain. So, on the left side, you have to make sure that photosynthesis is right, flag leaf nitrogen is right, and then tiller growth dynamics. These are the plant traits which are responsible for nitrogen conversion efficiency in biomass. On the other hand, nitrogen conversion efficiency for grain is zinc formation, which is your spikelets or panicles, and zinc filling, panicle, topomorphology. So that's once the plant has taken the nitrogen, how it's using it to produce biomass and to produce grain. The other component is nitrogen acquisition or nitrogen uptake. And for nitrogen uptake, you got to make sure that your rooting is right. So your root length density, root senescence, oxygen-carbon supply, rhizospheric deposit, acidification, and those are the traits one should look at. Now, there has been a lot of work, and I can't go in detail in both rice, maize, especially and wheat as well, looking at nitrogen use efficiency. And I'll give you some major conclusions from that work. Nitrogen acquisition and nitrogen conversion efficiency are tightly linked with harvest index, or nitrogen harvest index, and yield potential. Okay? So what I'm trying to say, when breeders have already increased harvest index, nitrogen use efficiency automatically is improved.
Ahora, tenemos algunas variedades donde la cosecha es igual o similar, pero igual tenemos diferencias en eficiencia del uso de nitrógeno, y eso se debe a la concentración de nitrógeno. Pero hay un límite hasta el cual podemos reducir la concentración de nitrógeno en el grano. Así que este abordaje no fue muy exitoso hasta ahora. Por otra parte, en un entorno de diferentes granos podemos mejorar la eficiencia en el uso de nitrógeno. Y allí estaríamos hablando del nitrógeno que proviene del suelo. Y hay una importante interacción entre el entorno y los genotipos. Por eso, si mejoramos la eficiencia en el uso de nitrógeno a través de la manipulación de plantas, no ha sido muy exitoso. También se intentó utilizar la ingeniería genética, se identificaron muchos genes, se mapearon y se los modificó a través de la ingeniería. Hay un gen
al que se prestó mucha atención es la alanina-aminotransferasa, que aumenta el sistema radicular y la captación. Pero esto todavía estamos trabajando a niveles hidropónicos y creo que no mejorará la planta en general. En el trabajo de ingeniería genética tenemos un desafío, que es contar con un carácter cuantitativamente complejo, y es difícil establecer los fenotipos. ¿Qué fenotipos debemos utilizar? Les mostré antes que la eficiencia es una relación, una proporción. Entonces, ¿qué fenotipo hay que utilizar? Eso es un desafío. Y el análisis QTL es muy complejo, entonces es muy difícil hacer los fenotipos, así que muchas veces el análisis QTL se hace en base a rindes, considerando un entorno de bajo suministro o aporte de nitrógeno, y esto está relacionado estrechamente con el rinde de la cosecha. La otra frontera, y no sé cuándo esto será realidad, se intentó trabajar en este sentido, pero se abandonó estos trabajos. Otra posibilidad es incluir equipos de fijación de nitrógeno en raíz, maíz y trigo. Y hay 3 componentes aquí. Tenemos asociaciones no nodulares. Aquí estamos hablando de una fijación de nitrógeno asociada. La otra es la asociación nodular, como vemos en las leguminosas. Y en otro caso ponemos genes NIF, muchos genes NIF, en la mitocondria del germoplasma, y esperamos que funcione. Pero la idea es que debemos considerar el suministro de energía y de carbono para que funcione la fijación de nitrógeno. Pero recién se está empezando a trabajar esto. Los que iniciaron el trabajo ya lo abandonaron, pero quizás, no sé si en nuestra época, en la época de nuestros hijos, quizás esto tenga éxito. Voy a resumir mi presentación. Creo que debemos considerar un marco de sustentabilidad de nitrógeno. Los que trabajamos con nitrógeno, primero hay que asegurarse de que el pool total de nitrógeno del suelo o nitrógeno disponible se mantenga en todos los casos. No debemos dejar que el nitrógeno del suelo se reduzca. En segundo lugar, tenemos una función para tener un alto potencial de rinde y para poder satisfacer las demandas de nitrógeno de los cultivos. También se utilizaron los análisis de suelo, pero esto no fue muy exitoso. Una vez que tenemos muy bien controlada la oferta y la demanda, se reducen las pérdidas. ¿Cómo se hace esto? Podemos hacerlo de diferentes formas: optimización del sistema, buenas prácticas agronómicas, incluyendo la aplicación de nitrógeno según las necesidades de las plantas. Solo aplicamos nitrógeno cuando necesitan las plantas. Así es como solo comemos cuando tenemos hambre. Bueno, lo mismo con nitrógeno. Minimizar las alteraciones y modificaciones del suelo, evitar ciclos de inundación y sequía. Si tenemos más ciclos de inundación y sequía, habrá más pérdidas de nitrógeno del suelo. Hay que evitar el barbecho seco. Siempre debe haber algún tipo de residuo o cubierta vegetal. Y hay que utilizar la diversidad de cultivos. Debemos utilizar residuos orgánicos de calidad. No podemos utilizar residuos que tienen altos contenidos de carbono, una alta relación de carbono lignino. Y hay que reponer los nutrientes del suelo hasta que... Y si no tenemos nutrientes adecuados, no habrá altos rindes. Además, en lo posible hay que colocar en forma profunda el nitrógeno en el suelo cuando esto sea posible. Estas son mis palabras finales. Y en caso de duda, necesitamos crear campañas, crear concientización, y debemos educar a la población, no solamente a nivel de los productores, sino también a nivel de los alumnos, a nivel de los decisores, a nivel de los que desarrollan las políticas. Mejor manejo. Tenemos una alta demanda de cultivos y esto va a estimular el logro de un equilibrio en la fijación de nitrógeno. No debemos utilizar en forma incorrecta el nitrógeno y debemos utilizar el nitrógeno con mayor frecuencia pero en menores cantidades. Con esto termino mi presentación y con mucho gusto voy a responder cualquier pregunta que puedan tener. Muchas gracias.
Le agradecemos al director de Ladha por su presentación y ahora junto a Guillermo Divino.
Dr. Jagdish Ladha for his presentation, and now we'll have the Q&A session. Jagdish, thank you very much for your presentation. It has been really excellent. I will ask some questions while I wait for the first question from you. In which country do you think there is a higher risk of contamination because of an excess use of nitrogen? What do you think about Argentina in this respect? And in those countries where there's a high risk of concentration, do you think the right steps are being taken by the governments to mitigate that contamination because of the excess use of nitrogen?
Unfortunately, the country which I would mention is China and some parts of India. And that's where there is a misuse of nitrogen or excess use of nitrogen, and also serious environmental problem and groundwater contamination problem. And of course, government is taking a lot of steps to control that, and sometimes they're successful, sometimes they are not. But I think it's going to be a continuing fight. And they have to bring in right policies and maybe incentives and education program, as I said.
La situación en Argentina.
What about Argentina? What is happening in Argentina regarding the efficiency in the use of nitrogen and the general scenario? Whether you think there is an excess use of nitrogen in Argentina?
Yesterday, as I said, we had some discussion with IPNI scientists, and what I learned there is the nitrogen use in Argentina is still very low. So you don't have that pollution problem, and your efficiency is high. And the good thing is that large area you have under zero tillage or no till, and so that has helped in terms of reducing excess use of nitrogen.
Another question. There have been increases, and you show this in the efficient use of nitrogen because of the improvement of hybrids and cultivars. What has been the size of this improvement in the use of of nitrogen because of different cultivars or hybrids?
If you go back, let's say, 25, 30 years ago, and that's the time the varieties of rice, wheat, and also maize, they were traditional varieties, were more biomass and less grain, and their efficiencies were very low. So what breeders have done, they have improved harvest index, and harvest index is tightly linked with the nitrogen use efficiency. So that has automatically improved. Now, hybrids, interestingly, seem to have higher potential, and I think it's because of their robust rooting system. So if rooting is good, then it sucks up all the nitrogen which is in the soil, and it does not allow nitrogen to get lost, and even you can produce higher yields with lower nitrogen in case of hybrids.
Yendo un poco a la parte de diagnóstico.
Talking about diagnosis using optical tools, SPAD, that green seeker, do we need to have special values or calibers for each cultivar, for each hybrid, or could we use a reference range?
Yeah. Normally, you should calibrate at the first time when you are using a variety. But if a variety is all, let's say, for example, high yielding and same genetic background, then you will see that spark value or chlorophyll meter value will be very similar. But if you are trying to grow inbreds or hybrids, then you will see differences in spark and chlorophyll meter value. So it's always a good idea, first 2 seasons, you establish that threshold value, and then you can use it, and that won't change.
What do you recommend to improve the nitrogen, total nitrogen in the soil, including the organic fraction in soils where that organic pool has been depressed because of flooding or because of the agricultural use? And it's talking about those farms which can only include soybean in the rotation system.
Yeah. I think I mentioned some of the agronomic practices which can maintain soil organic matter. Unfortunately, increasing soil organic matter is not always that easy. But nevertheless, I think with conservation agriculture, if you use the residue, right quality of residue, I think that's one way you can bring up the soil organic matter level. But once you bring up that soil organic matter, I think the challenge is how do you maintain it. So again comes in good practices, good agronomic practices, and conservation agriculture. I think that will make sure that soil nitrogen is maintained at a higher level.
Bien.
Are there any further questions? So in closing, which do you think are the agronomic practices that should be taken into account to include efficiency in nitrogen use for any crop?
Yeah, I think you have to have system agronomy right. And that includes starting from your land preparation, water management, to crop management and nutrient management. So if you consider all these factors together and your variety is right, I think then you can be sure that your efficiency will be good. Of course, nobody can expect 100% efficiency, but if we can, let's say, right now, if anybody is getting 40% efficiency and we can increase to 40 to 50, I think that will be a good success.
Bueno, una pregunta más del público.
Another question from the audience. What do you think about the response of IRRI inhibitors to reduce nitrogen losses when applied in a broadcast fashion? And maybe you could talk about any other element that is added to the nitrogen fertilizers.
Reducing nitrogen losses using urease inhibitors have been used in 1980s and 90s, and a lot of research and promotion work happened. But unfortunately, these inhibitors have not been very successful. One is that when they go in the soil environment, they degrade very fast and they're not effective. The other one is the cost is still a problem. And economically, farmers don't find it viable to use these inhibitors.
Bueno, si no hay más preguntas, le agradecemos.
If there are no further questions, we thank Dr. Jagdish Ladha once again for his presentation. And we close this session so that we can start with the next presentation.